After the trip to the soda fountain blue, we walked around Old Town for a while and ran into Paris and Della. Paris paired off with Lex, and Della hooked up with Stu, and there was poor JD, the odd one out again. Once again, I wondered if there was something I could do for him without making a big deal of it. Still, he seemed cool with it. Della insisted that we go into the local record store and see what was new. Paris, Stella, and I were off by ourselves, comparing the Backstreet Boys to NSYNC, deciding which had the cuter members. Or at least they did personally. I think those guys are totally lame. Then someone grabbed the back of my top, and I felt something wriggly and prickly fall down my back. Naturally, I freaked out and jumped up and down to get it out. After doing a little shimmy for a few minutes, a plastic spider fell out. I heard laughing and spun around to see who'd done. This to me, there was Reese Aubrey guffawing away. "You!" I hissed, "You creep." I stopped his laughing with a sharp slap on his face. Griff all but teleported to my side. "Jordan, are you okay?" This jerk put a spider down my back. Griff glared at Reese, who waved him off. Hey, it was only a plastic spider. It was a joke. I didn't know she had a boyfriend. Trust Reese to turn the situation around so that I was on the spot. I just blushed a little and said nothing. Griff took me by the arm and led me out of the store with a last harsh glare at Reese. Reese was giving me this weird look. This did not bode well at all. Monday, I biked to school again, and this time I took a tube of metal epoxy with me. If Reese was going to try the motorcycle lock trick again, I'd just squirt some epoxy in the lock, and it would cost him the price of that lock. I also took the seat and front wheel off, just in case he was smart enough to play variations on a theme. Jeez. All that preparation, and Reese didn't pull anything. Not unless he was the guy who put the padlock on my locker. Nope, couldn't have been. It was still there when the janitor came with the bolt cutters. Reese would have taken it off, just to annoy me. At the end of the school day, my bike was still there, more or less untouched. I guess that Reese decided focusing on my bike was too predictable, but Cole and his goon squad weren't giving up on me. They tried to follow me on their bikes, but I lost them with a little hocus pocus. I did my switch in the public library again and went looking for my new gang. Instead, I ran into Paris and Della. We indulged in a little female bonding by drooling at dresses and shop windows that we were too young for and couldn't afford, even if we were. After a bit, we ran into Griff and Stu, and we hung out with them for a bit. We did a whole lot of nothing for a while, and finally, when it was time for me to leave, Griff walked me to the trolley. We waited for it for a few minutes. As the trolley turned the corner, Griff took my face in his hands and kissed me. It wasn't quite as high voltage as that first kiss, but nothing ever quite measures up to a first kiss, right? Even so, the trolley still had to wring us out of our clinch. I got on a road to the library with a silly grin on my face. When I got to the library, I saw to my horror that annoying Reese Aubrey had motorcycle locked my bike to the rack. Why won't that guy leave me alone? I shook at the lock experimentally and was surprised by a flash. I whipped around. Behind me was Reese, holding a pocket camera and wearing a smug grin on his face. Well, look at you. Don't you look pretty? Somehow, he managed to make pretty sound awful. He swaggered up to me, walking around me. That's a nice outfit, Winters. Not as nice as the one you were wearing at the record store. But nice. I gave him a disgusted look. Oh, it's you, Spider-Boy. He waggled his eyebrows at me. Oh, gonna play it cool, huh? Gonna make it look like you don't know what I'm talking about, and you're gonna scream for the cops any second now, right? Okay, I can respect that. That takes guts. Winters, more guts than I thought you had. He looked me up and down. But then there's so much more to you than anyone thought. My heart was racing in my chest. My worst nightmare was coming true. I'd been found out, and by the absolute worst person possible. But I tried to put on a brave face. Oh, lovely. More jokes. What, run out of fake blood and plastic vomit? He leaned into my face. You can try and bluff all you want, Dano. That's right. Your name isn't Daniel. It's Jordan, isn't it? Well, Jordan, my family has been in the craft for as long as yours has. I know a glamour when I see one. Though I'll give you credit. This is a first-rate job, Winters. I didn't catch the glamour when I first saw you in the record store. But you blew it, girly boy. You recognized me, and I knew that I'd never met the cute chick you look like. So I checked you out. Mind you, I didn't realize that the nerd I was following and the mystery lady I was keeping an eye out for were one and the same. Not until Dan the dork went into the public library and Little Miss X came out 5 minutes later. I gave him a pitying look. You do realize how insane you sound, don't you? He wasn't fazed in the least, so play it that way, Winters. I know that you went into the library because I was following the fool's cap. And you know something, Winters? While it may be weaker when you're like this, it's still there. You're friends. May not know it, but you're still fair game. For anything. And once these pictures of you walking around in gross clothing and kissing a guy hit the streets, you'll be lucky to survive long enough to explain this whole ugly mess to your mom. And we both know that glamours don't show up on film. Obviously. He didn't know about what happened at Paris Ashburn's party, and I wasn't about to fill him in on it. His evidence would never stick, but he still had me made. If I told him, he'd just try to find some that would. Well, he had the rope in his hands, and he was twisting it into a knot, but I still had to get him up on a chair. But I wasn't worried he wanted something, or he wouldn't have let me know. Not when it would have been so much more fun to catch. Me flat-footed dot, I folded my arms across my chest and cocked my head. Okay, Reese, you got me. So, what are your terms? He ran a hand through his spiked-up red hair and smirked while he checked me up and down. Now I know what girls mean when they say that guys can make them feel like a piece of meat. I haven't quite decided. I have an idea, but I'll need a little time to fine-tune it. In other words, he needed time to think of something really vile. He turned and I caught his arm. Before you go, Aubrey, there are 3 things, like it or not. I was at Burger King at the appointed hour. I was wearing my striped jersey and jumper outfit, and not happy about wasting it on someone like Reese. Fortunately, the BK wasn't part of my regular circuit with Griff and the gang, so I didn't have to worry too much about who saw us there. Reese ambled in about 4:30 typical. He smirked at me and slid into one of the seats. He gave me a leering glance and drawled, "Ah, babe, did you put on that cute little number just for me?" I took my lips off the milkshake straw and drawled right back at him. "Oh, look, it's Spider-Boy." He just gave me a very funny grimace and went on. "So, Miss Phelps, your assignment, whether you like it or not, is to get me the minutes of this Tuesday's school board meeting before it's sent to the notary." My eyes went wide. What do you want with the school board minutes? I've been to those meetings, and when they aren't trying to outdo each other, they could bore anyone to sleep. He gave me a Cheshire grin and said, "I've got an uncle who's interested in investing in sports equipment. There are 4 separate outfits competing for the contract to provide the school district's uniforms. If he knows which one is going to get the contract, he can invest his money early and make a great profit. So, insider trading." "Okay, Reese, I'll get you a copy." "No, not the copy, the original, before it goes to the notary." Now I knew this sleazebag was up to something. I pretended to be innocent. "Okay, the original, and that's it. You burn the negatives and you leave me alone? You can play all the pranks you want at school, but once school is out and I'm like this, you stay away from me and my friends. No tricks, no anonymous notes, no sly insinuations, period." He got cagey. We'll exchange formal promises when you hand over the minutes. A bit of explanation here. If lying is bad, then breaking a formal oath is even worse. I had to make sure I was on top of this. Once I got home, I was exhausted, and I still had homework to do and dinner to help with. I slumped down on the couch. Clyde came over and laid his head on my lap, looking up at me with that soulful look. Dogs have. I scratched his head. Sorry, Clyde, but there's no way I'm telling you my troubles. You just tell Dad, and I don't need that right now. Clyde sighed and shut his eyes. It was nice to have some peace and quiet. I was on the family. COMPUTE are doing research, which was true enough, just not for school, when the next bomb dropped. Little brother Trey walked up to me, grinning like a Cheshire cat. He stood there, grinning, until I couldn't ignore him anymore. I gave him a frosty glare and said, "No, I don't want to play Batman. Every time you play the Joker, you use it as an excuse to break things and blame me." He kept grinning. "Oh, would you prefer to play Batgirl, maybe?" In the next heartbeat, Trey was hanging from his shirt collar, feet dangling. I snarled into his face, and exactly what is that supposed to mean? I gotta admit, the little rodent could keep his cool. "You hit me, and I'll tell Mom you've been going around spelled up to look like a girl. You can't prove anything, you little spore. I know where you keep your clothes, and if Mom asks you straight out, you can't lie to her. If I tell, you're screwed. Period. And exactly what do you want for your silence? Oh, altitudinally challenged evil mastermind. Well, let's start. With you doing my homework?" I smiled, dished a little more, and went back to Griff for another spin on the dance floor. I have the elements, and now all I had to do was mix them together right. I won't bother you with the trivial details of the logistics. Let's just say that it didn't take much pulling and tweaking of strings to get Benny exactly where I wanted. Him. Actually, Pris, the practical joker, did most of the work. She was looking for someone to prank. Better Benny than someone who was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Benny at least had it coming. So I made sure that her questing string accidentally fell on old Benny Dot. It took some effort to get all the players into place. Working sorcery on the fly isn't my strong suit, and as any RPG games master will tell you, people have a nasty tendency to do what they want instead of what you want. I was running up a rather nasty karmic tab. I just hoped it wouldn't come due until I had a chance to make a few deposits. Also, I was there with Griff, and I didn't want to be the kind of girl who leaves her date hanging. Finally, Pris had her joke all set, and Benny was taking the bait. I leaned against a bookcase in satisfied anticipation of seeing Benny's face when he was the fool, for a change. Then I heard Mr. Ashbroom's voice, "That person Winters?" My ears pricked up. I looked over where his voice was coming from. Mr. Ashbroom was talking into his cell phone, one ear blocking out the noise from the party. He went on, but I couldn't really follow the train of the conversation, what with only hearing one side of it. I submitted what I heard to memory, word for word. He went on for a bit. I think that they were trying to maneuver Mom into a no-win position somehow. He finished up his business and hung up. I reviewed what he'd said to get it right in my head. Then Paris came by, nervously looking at her father from around the bookcase and saying, "Oh no." "What's the matter, Paris?" She looked at me with a lost little girl expression. Some jerk I never saw before got himself handcuffed to the post on my bed, and whoever did it took his pants. I stifled a laugh. If only I had a camera. Paris hissed at me, "This isn't funny." If